Hi, everybody. Welcome to day 6 of the San Diego Latino Film Festival and our screening of our Q&A session for the Docu-Shorts Program. The documentary shorts program is always super special to me. I like to consider filmmakers, especially documentary filmmakers, as kind of like record keepers of a era or time that we're living in. So I think like in 40, 50 years, people are gonna be like, oh, this was happening at this time, or wow, this was still happening. This is still happening, even though it was happening 40, 50 years ago, like we do with some things nowadays. But I think I think what we're gonna see here is gonna be we're gonna hear from some of the filmmakers that worked on some of these shorts that you might have watched, or maybe after you watch this Q&A, you'll be enticed to watch them because they are wonderful works. So let me bring them on screen really quickly, because we want to hear from them, not me. How's everybody doing?
Great, thank you.
Good, thank you.
Good.
Good.
I think Saul is gonna. He had to reconnect his computer.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I saw that he dropped. If any filmmaker drops at any point, we'll just bring them back up when they connect. But yeah, I think one of the few good things about doing a virtual film festival is more Q&As, and filmmakers can connect from wherever they're at. So why don't you all go really quickly down the line and tell us where you're connecting from today.
Hi, I'm Maya Cueva. I'm the director of Ale Libre, and I'm connecting from Berkeley, California in the Bay Area.
Hey everyone, Alejandra from Ale Libre, connecting from Arizona lands, Autumn lands.
Thank you. How about you, Veronica?
Hi, I'm Veronica. I'm the director of Julie. I'm connecting from San Juan, Puerto Rico.
Hi, I'm Leon Bolvinic. I'm the director of Desde Arriba from Up Above, and I'm connecting from Mexico City.
Awesome, thank you. How about you, Charles?
So Charles Fairbanks, our film, we pronounce it as Ecos del Volcán, or Echoes of the Volcano. And I'm actually at my parents' house in Nebraska, but I normally live in Oaxaca, Mexico, and my co-director should be connecting soon from Chiapas, where we filmed.
Awesome. I think you're the first filmmaker from Nebraska that we have from Nebraska, probably, since we had the virtual film festival, connecting from there. Well, to start off, why don't you all tell us about how you got involved in this project? Why did you decide to do a story on this, on the subject that you made it on? And yeah, you can go as in depth as you want to. And we'll start with again with Maya, and then we'll go down the line.
Yeah, so Ale and I met actually while she was still detained in the Eloy Detention Center in Arizona. I actually came across a petition that was calling for her immediate release from Eloy while I was a fellow at Latino USA, a show on NPR. And I immediately, looked into her case and wanted to know everything about her. And so I actually ended up connecting with Ale while she was still inside in prison. We had our first conversation then, and we ended up making a radio feature about her story, all from her being born all until she was actually released from the Eloy detention for the second time around. And then it was actually Ale who contacted me after the radio feature was out, and was talking about maybe putting out her story in a film form. And she asked if I knew any filmmakers, and I was like, yes, I am. I happen to be a documentary filmmaker as well. So I ended up making a short film under the support of the Jacob Burns Film Center, which is a center in Westchester, New York. I was a fellow there at the time as well. It was part of the Creative Culture Fellowship. So I was able to make the short film under that, and yeah, that's basically how we connected. I don't know, Ale, if you want to talk more about.
Thanks. I don't have to add more, a lot more, but I just wanted to say that I think first and foremost, being in experiencing deportation really like transformed me into community organizers. So I think people knowing about these, stories with a lot of nuance, complexities, understanding this like complicated deportation machine was really important for me, my storytelling, and again building that base of support. And, just to protect me, right, from deportation, because as far as right now, the laws are, people are deportable, right, without seeing people as they are. And we're understanding right now that we need to abolish ICE. So I think it was important to just like have it out, and also have it out in other environments, right? A lot of the times, and as an organizer, you're just preaching to the choir in a sense, right? People who are already like-minded. So how do we get out into other realms? So thanks, Maya.
Sorry, I'm gonna ask really quickly if you're not speaking, maybe turn off your mic because I hear like there's like a little static going on. Uh, yeah, and it sounds like typing. It's just the fun of the internet. Um, but thank you so much. Oh, so who will be next, Veronica?
Um, so a little bit of context. I'm a student from the University of Puerto Rico. It's the public university of the island. Um, we've been dealing with some issues. There've been a lot of budget cuts, and we've been struggling. I'm an athlete also, and I have this partner, compañera from the team, because I'm from the Taekwondo team, and we were talking, and she shared her story with me, and I said like, whoa, like, this is really interesting. Uh, and as a film student, well, I said I need to share this because this is happening, and the situation is really tense right now. There have been strikes. There have been movements. The student community have been battling with the state and the law that la Junta de Control Fiscal, that they imposed over the island. So when she shared her story, I said, I need to get this out there. I need to, from a creative perspective, tell people this is happening. And so, yeah, she told me, yeah, I have this condition, and because of the budget cuts, I have to work. I can't. It's not enough with what I receive from being an athlete. Um, and I thought I had it bien fuerte, the situation really strong. And when she shared her story, it was like, this is worse. And she shared with me that yeah, she has to work, she has to have the scholarship, she has to comply with the practice, and she also has the academic la carga académica. Así que I had to get this out there, and it was funny because in Puerto Rico, it's we made this without any budget. I had a friend and I told him, look, I want to do this documentary. I need to get this out there. I need to share this. This is really important for me. And he said, yeah, sure, I'll lend you my camera. I have the programs, I have the mic. And I said, perfect, let's do this. And it's funny because we filmed this just right before COVID, and it was for a class, and nobody could film their documentaries. And we just before that they closed everything, we finished filming the documentary, and it was it was a really fun experience, a really magical thing. Not many people understand this because they're not struggling. They're not facing the situations that the student community is facing here in Puerto Rico. So yeah, that's basically how this little project, emerged.
Awesome. Thank you, Veronica. Maybe we'll go with you, Leon, and then when Saul connects, we'll have him and Charles, since they're co-directors, talk about their film.
Sure. For me, I'm also a film student at Escuela Superior de Cine here in Mexico City. And for me, it was like this documentary was a way of just showing my immediate surroundings. Like I want to make films about what's closest, I guess. And for me, I shot this in my neighborhood with the high rise. I guess it's not really high rise, but like building window cleaners, which we became great friends. And for me, it was also like a great metaphor for the inequality that there's in like the window and the outside and inside. For me, it showed a great metaphor of the inequality that there is in Mexico. And yeah, so well, it was like a learning experience for me, and it was like a way um, to like get to know some people that are like basically like systematically like made invisible by society. And uh, I think like we sometimes think that like documentary is like giving a voice, but like for me it's just like listening. You know? So that's what it was like this exercise.
Awesome. Thank you. How about you, Charles?
Yeah, so Saul is still going to try to join us, but he has to find another machine to try to connect from.
Okay.
But I'm happy to talk about how our project was born. We have been working together for 10 years now. We started in 2011, March, I think, of 2011. And at first we were going to make a short film that he had written for a film to be in his first language, in Zoque, in his town in rural Chiapas. I had been a professor. I was a professor at that time at a university in Chiapas. And that's where we met. He was finishing his degree in painting at that time. And we started working together, and then the project just grew and grew, and eventually it became a feature documentary. It kind of transformed from a scripted short to a feature documentary. And that was The Modern Jungle, came out in 2016. And then but while we were filming that, we were also recording soundscapes in the town. And when we weren't filming for the Modern Jungle, which was actually filmed handheld really intimately with its main protagonists, we would go out and film from a tripod, so the architecture and landscape, while we're recording the soundscape, which includes a lot of announcements over a speaker system that's wired throughout the town. And then towards the end of the process of making what we were always pretty sure would be a short film, an anniversary of the eruption of the volcano that basically made Saul's family into exiles, because they were exiled from their ancestral home around the volcano. And so that anniversary coincided with Organization for the Defense of their Ancestral Lands. And so that became an organizing theme for this short film. That also is very much about life in a lot of diverse ways it's lived. But I'll let Saul talk about a little about his history and his family's connection to the volcano. Saúl, les estaba contando cómo nos pusimos a trabajar juntos. Si quieres platicar un poco de la historia pues del éxodo. desde el volcán a donde viven ahora.
Ok. Hola a todos, mucho gusto de poder estar aquí presente. Después de varios intentos, creo que ya por fin, un gusto para poder participar en este festival de San Diego. Pues yo soy originario de Nuevo Esquipulas, Guayabal, una comunidad, Nuevo Esquipulas, Guayabal, Rayón, una comunidad reubicada tras la erupción del volcán Chichonal en 1982. Mis papás eran originarios de Guayabal, Chapultenango. Lamentablemente ellos abandonaron para siempre sus tierras porque el volcán prácticamente acabó con la comunidad. Justo mis papás vivían al lado del volcán, unos, no sé, muy como, era un cerro que tenían frente a ellos, muy cercano, no sé exactamente decir cuánto de distancia, pero era bastante cerca. Entonces, afortunadamente tuvieron todavía la posibilidad de salir de esta erupción porque la lava se fue del otro lado del volcán hacia el lado de Francisco León, otro municipio que desafortunadamente ahí sí no les dio tiempo y dejó sepultado el pueblo. Entonces pudieron aprovechar salir ellos y mientras caía cenizas, piedras, fuego en la comunidad, en el pueblo, ellos se refugiaron en la capilla de la comunidad mientras pasaba la primera erupción y y pudieron defenderse, pudieron salvarse, digamos, de los primeros erupciones. Entonces, mientras se calmó, pudieron salir rumbo a Chapultenango, la cabecera municipal. Entonces, digamos que ese tramo que hacían 3 horas normalmente, pues fue un éxodo muy difícil, una situación muy dura y prácticamente, o sea, viajaron toda la noche. La erupción inició como alrededor de entre 7, 8 de la noche. Entonces, ese éxodo fue muy difícil. Cuando llegaron ellos a Chapultenango, se sorprendieron porque ya la gente que ahí vivía en la cabecera ya había abandonado el municipio. Entonces ellos pues ya llegaron prácticamente en un lugar abandonado, ya vacío, ¿no? Entonces, digamos que a partir de ahí empieza un éxodo, un caminar de mis papás, de mis ancestros, hacia un rumbo desconocido, sin saber a dónde iban a parar, ¿no? Afortunadamente, poco a poco lograron salir del lugar y llegaron a Villahermosa, Tabasco, mientras estuvieron refugiados temporalmente. Después los trasladaron los reubicaron al municipio de Rayón, no en la cabecera municipal, sino en un lugar que se llama La Esperanza, del cual ahora en un segundo, en las lluvias de noviembre del año pasado, del 2020, lamentablemente pues se fue un cerro sepultando toda esa zona, ¿no? Esa zona donde llegaron a habitar temporalmente mientras se construía un conjunto habitacional en el municipio de Rayón. Entonces, parte de este documental, digamos, se muestra donde actualmente es donde vivieron mis papás, yo menciono que fue como un reacomodo no bien planeado, porque este, se, hubo conflictos, esta reubicación generó conflictos, digamos, con los reubicados y con la gente que de por sí ahí vivía, ¿no? Entonces, eh, a partir de aquí, o sea, en ese mal plan de reubicación, hay una confrontación que dura varios años y que incluso a mí me toca vivir, pero yo sin saber por qué pasaban eso, por qué pasaba esa situación. Creo que se está cortando la señal. Entonces, pues es ahí donde, pues es este pueblo donde nosotros empezamos a filmar. Entonces, en la escena de donde ustedes ven cuando el carro de los tanques de gas está recorriendo el pueblo, es donde se construyó la nueva comunidad, ya con este nuevo nombre también, de Nuevo Esquipulas Guayabal, ya con el municipio de Rayón. Bueno, a grandes rasgos y en un resumen bastante así, trato
Sí.
de como contar esta historia, ¿no? Es muy grande, pero estoy
Sí,
resumiendo
parece que son muchas diferentes partes que una cosita a otra, ¿verdad?
Sí, 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 exacto.
Ujú. Wow, muchas gracias, Saúl. For the next question, as documentary filmmakers, is not the same as the narrative filmmakers who work with actors. You're working with real people who have real emotions and are going through real things. So and then sometimes it's hardships, sometimes it's happy stuff, but still having a camera in front of you is it's kind of intimidating for most normal people, right? So as directors, how do you get your subjects comfortable? What did you do for this film to get your subjects comfortable? Something of the sort. I think yeah, well, if you could speak more about that, we'll start with Leon and then we'll go backwards this time.
Sure. For me, getting like a good testimony or like a good interview is it's about time and dedication to going back and to like staying with a subject or like in my experience that's what has helped me like usually the first interview is quite bad and like by the fifth sixth or not even interview like by the time you start talking about whatever with the person you're making the documentary, that's when like the really interesting things like start to happen. Like once you, yeah, because it is very like violent and like very disruptive to like put a camera in front of someone and like ask them to act naturally. I think, but you have to like practice. I guess just I think that that's for me the solution.
Saúl preguntaba cuando, ¿cuál es la forma más, cuál fue, cómo le hacen para hacer que cuando estén grabando un documental, el protagonista de su documental, se sienta a gusto de tener una cámara enfrente de ellos? ¿Qué métodos usan para que la gente no, como que no se cierre cuando están hablando?
Bueno, yo creo que para este caso, para el caso de este documental, de este corto, hay creo que hay una necesidad de hablar de nuestra comunidad. Desafortunadamente para nosotros, en nuestra región de Chiapas, hemos sido prácticamente olvidado por parte del Estado, ¿no? Por parte de los gobiernos. Y esta historia dura, difícil, para nosotros se nos ha contado de generación en generación y hay como esta necesidad de expresarlo, ¿no? Es algo, digamos que este tema o este dolor, tragedia, se tiene muy fuerte en nosotros, independientemente de que yo, por ejemplo, no haya vivido ese éxodo en ese momento de la erupción, pero mis papás me lo contaban con tanta fuerza, con tanta expresión y dolor, y que nos sentíamos como parte de esto, ¿no? Entonces, nosotros de alguna forma queremos ser escuchados, queremos que esto se escuche, ¿no? Y entonces siento yo que es esta misma situación que para el caso de este documental permite que haya esa naturalidad de poder tener la cámara enfrente y el sonido. Claro, son medios no normales para el caso de mi región, porque no es una zona turística, no es una zona donde haya movimientos turísticos y haya gente que traiga cámaras y todo eso. Es como muy lejano para cuando nosotros empezamos a hacer el documental, eh, poder tener como un acceso a cámara, ¿no? Entonces era como una oportunidad, yo creo, de poder manifestar nuestros sentimientos, nuestros dolores. Entonces, de alguna manera creo que esa es una de las ventajas por el cual había esta conexión, digamos, un poco más cercana, sin tanto complejidad, pero además pienso yo también que tiene que ver también la confianza que hay de la comunidad conmigo mismo, porque yo soy de la comunidad, o sea, pertenezco a este pueblo y entonces pienso yo, siento que es parte de eso también. Pero no sé si Charles tiene como algún comentario o lo que él haya visto y sentido a partir de esta experiencia.
Oh, you're muted, Charles.
Charles, creo que apagaste tu micrófono.
Sorry, I didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, you're lit. I still don't get used to it.
Yeah. Well, I was actually, of course, learning so much all my time in this community over so many years. But one of the things that I was really surprised by once I started to understand is, though there are always exceptions, it did seem that generally, as Saul is talking about, the people from his part of town, the community that had been resettled, they saw Saul as someone who was like doing valuable work, and that they wanted to support. And they saw me as someone who was there to support him. And so they generally were interested in our project. And on the other side of town, they saw Saul as someone who wasn't really trustworthy, and whose projects were suspect. He, even though both communities of people are Zoque, a lot of, and Saul is definitely friends with people from both Zoque communities in this area. unless people are part of the more active costumbristas, the people who practice more actively traditional Zoque culture, which Saul does, and he works with those people and helps support, then they don't see value in a lot of his work as a contemporary artist, as an activist, and also as someone who is trying to support and further Zoque culture. And so the reactions were really different depending on where we were in town, and also I think the ways that the struggle to reclaim the ancestral lands, the way that message resonates is also different in the different parts of the town. And so, yeah, it's of course, there's a lot more to say, but I'll leave it at that.
How are you, Veronica?
Well, for this type of documentary, it was a little bit difficult, but I think the most important thing was the equipment we chose, because we had the opportunity to use the equipment that the university offers. But we thought that the best possible way to film this was to choose the smallest camera, the smallest microphone, and to use the less things as possible. And but basically a lot of psychology. I had to talk with Juliet, the subject, um, for a few weeks. Trying to not trying to convince her, because I did not want to put any pressure. I just wanted this to flow as the most natural way as possible. But I kept explaining to her, this is how it is. This is how it's gonna go. I don't want you to interact with the camera. It's like it's not there. So we had a few takes that she started laughing, or she looked at the camera, because I think I had the same situation as Saul, uh, which was that there's a friendship. We know each other. We are from the same team. So also I think that helped a little bit, but still, she is not linked with in any way with the film community. So this was all new to her. But I think it depends on the type of documentary. Since it was observational, well, it was a little bit more complicated, I think. Also, when we were in public, people started talking to us, or people just burst in and, oh, what are you doing? Or they ruined the take. But it's just really trying to connect with the subject, with the person, or trying to establish a friendship or a relation with the person beforehand, before starting all this process, before even the pre-production. Um, so
Awesome, thank you. For Alejandra, once you get your turn to speak, maybe you can talk about your experience as being filmed.
Sure. My experience being filmed. So, I mean, obviously, like wanting to make a film or like tell my story through film, I'm obviously not that, super shy. So that, helps. But I think definitely like seeing my own growth, right? Because as a person facing deportation and like organizing every day, like to ensure that I don't get deported. I think my development and my desarrollo, right, as an organizer, a storyteller, the language I use, how I express myself, how, whatever, I think has grown a lot. So I get to see that like fast forward, you know? So that's really interesting. And just being able to look back and having just a lot of my friends and my family, you know, being able to see that like really inspires me. But yeah, it's weird. It's weird in the sense that like everything, like it's very everything is really important, especially as I'm fighting, you know, with like my convictions, right, in an open case. So everything is like super delicate too, right? Like talking about what is it that we want to film, what is it that we're showing, how is it that we're being perceived or we're coming across, because always like there's like somebody who can like possibly have like power over like what happens to me, right, whether it's harm or whatever. So I think just knowing that I'm being filmed always and that it could be used against me is really scary. But also again remembering that like, you know, I'm not the enemy, I'm not the one hurting people, right? I'm not like, so why do I feel like, you know, these things or whatever? So just yeah, just like a lot of like reflection, learning, and then like, but I also get a lot of love in return, right? Even when yeah, even when I may not like, you know, something that somebody that even maybe I said in the film, right? Or I looked kind of funny there. Like people are super supportive, and it's like you're being such a hard critic on yourself, you know. And I'm like, oh my god, why did I say it like that? Or you know, whatever. So you know, just like those natural things. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's super powerful to see the story. But again, knowing that like they're watching, right? Like more intel that I'm sharing, you know, letting them in, you know, like the enemies, right? The antis, not everybody's a supporter. So anyways, at the other end is that like, it is people that I trust, right? It is people that are like-minded. It is folks that are like, you know, doing this work because they really care and they want to also push, you know, narrative or push, you know, something they believe in, which is, you know, to get rid of deportation. So I really trust the Maya and the team, right? They're young filmmakers, right? Again, the future. So I also feel really like, you know, I feel squatted up, you know, I feel like we are doing this for one reason, and then I feel supported, and I feel like I can also talk to them all the time, and I have access, you know, to talking through things, and like, you know, and then being a part of the Q&As was really important to me, and like, you know, Maya respects that and always makes sure that I'm like being brought into these spaces. So yeah.
Thank you, Alejandro. You next, Maya? Oh.
Thank you. Sorry, I wasn't sure if I should wait for you to say that. Yeah, I think Ale said it best. Like, even with all of my, you know, I've made a few other films as well, and I always try to approach my subjects with the question, like, how do you feel like you've been misrepresented or ignored? You know, how do you feel like the mainstream media has maybe taken your story and changed it, or you know, criminalized you further? And I think, you know, Ale is a good example of someone who, you know, was in the spotlight even before we started filming. But often, you know, some news reporters, or like she mentioned, there was, you know, people against her who would say really, really awful things and further, you know, criminalize her and her story. And I really don't think of myself as the voice for the voiceless. I think, you know, a lot of documentary filmmakers think of themselves as that, or we've been told we should say that. And I don't really think that's true. I really wanted to make this as much of a collaborative process as possible with Ale, because at the end of the day, this is her story, right? And I think that it's important that, you know, we do justice to her story and show that, you know, her fight as an organizer is not glamorous, right? I mean, this work is really hard, and she's been dealing with her deportation case for going on to over 10 years, really. So I wanted to be able to show that, and through her eyes and through her story. And yeah, I mean, I think through the years we've been able to build a relationship, and our number one priority, you know, myself and the team as well, I have, you know, wonderful producers that I brought on to the film. We always wanted to keep Ale's safety in mind. So it was really important for us to make sure that, you know, she felt comfortable with the process, but also that when we actually released the film and it was premiering, that there wasn't more information, like she said, that could further, you know, harm her, right? Because this is a very delicate case. So yeah, so that's really the approach. That's how the approach was all the time. But we ended up yeah, filming for almost a year, I want to say. It's kind of like going on back and forth. But I feel like the project has really been a couple of years that we've worked on it. So yeah, so it's fun to see it now in the world.
Yeah. I think all of your documentaries are a different style, which I think is awesome because um, the audience gets to see different documentary styles, but I want and experience all that in one program. But I want to ask, is that the style you usually use for, or the style that the documentary style you usually go for, or is this something that you were trying out for this film? Whoever wants to go first.
I can start. Yeah, I think my approach. Oh, sorry, Veronica. My approach with this film was very much trying to take it into a verite lens, as well as show voiceover, hearing voiceover of Ale speaking over some of the verite as well. And I am currently making a feature documentary that's also character driven. That's following 3 Latinx people who are all unexpectedly connected to the last abortion clinic in McAllen, Texas, which we're finishing up right now. It's called On the Divide. But we also approached that film. I'm co-directing that film. We also approached that film in a verite kind of character-driven lens. So I always want to make sure that my subjects kind of lead the story as much as possible, and that myself or whoever I'm co-directing with are also kind of the flies on the wall. We understand also that our point of view is obviously going to somehow influence the film, so we don't make objective films, or I don't say that I make objective films, but I do try to have my characters really lead the story and push the narrative forward.
Thank you.
I think it really depends on the theme and the subject, because when I first thought of Julie, I said, oh, this has to be done this way. It won't work if it's done any other way. It has to be observational. I won't interact in with any way with the subject, and I wrote like a few scripts of how it would look if it were filmed a certain type of way. But uh, finally, when I spoke with the crew, we reached to the conclusion that it had to be done this way. Um, I think it really depends on the theme, and the subject. Uh, in the case of Julie, I wanted to prove a point. I wanted to prove the sacrifice of an athlete at the University of Puerto Rico. And I think if I interacted with in any type of way, uh, I think it would have broke the flow of the movie. I think the naturality of the movie. I think it wouldn't be as impacting in the end if it were made another way. So I think, and I think we can all agree that it really depends on what you're trying to bring to the table, and how are you gonna prove that, or how are you gonna show this subject to this public. So
Thank you. Lando, you want to take that?
I mean, yeah, definitely like along the same lines. Like it's all about like theme and character, I think, and being like as as like ergonomic to the ideas of the film with the form. I think is what I try. But like for me with this film, it was like conveying height and vertigo was a challenge in terms of cinematography. So I tried many different techniques. Like I used some GoPro cameras. Also, I used some like wide angle lenses, and like I experimented with a lot of things and ended up like editing my way to what for me worked the most. But it was definitely like incredibly fun. Like also to because at some point in the making of the film, I thought like this is almost like an action sequence. Like I like if you watch the film, it's like quite slow actually, but that's like I think a personal thing of how I tend to make movies. But I try to make like the I guess incredibly dangerous job, like trying to convey that is was also like formally very very interesting to me. And it was one of the parts that I enjoyed the most of making this.
Thank you. Either Charles o Saúl está preguntando si es el tipo de estilo de documental que hacen ustedes, o si era un estilo que con el que estaban experimentando para este corto.
So this is our second film together, and the first, The Modern Jungle, is very much an intimate character study, and that actually is continuous with a lot of my previous work, and this film, Ecos del Volcán, is. You could say the town is the character, and so it's an intimate character study of the town. And then, but throughout our collaboration for both films, I came into our collaboration with way more film experience than Saúl had, but he was already an artist, very much an artist, had an artistic sensibility, and but his background was primarily in painting, but all of his work is about articulating and the Zoque cosmovision or worldview, but I like the Spanish word better, the cosmovision for like to contemporary reality. And so that's been at the heart of both of our films, and that comes up in different ways. The other thing is our collaboration was really easy from the beginning. I think we both found that just we had very similar. We're coming from different places, but I think our hearts and minds were interested in kind of telling the same things. But of course, he is much more intimately connected with the people and the place, and somehow I think there's his tenderness is really evident in the ways that both films are intimate. In this film, even though it's a portrait of the town, there's children who come up and just start talking to him casually because they're so comfortable with him. With Saúl, also, they are from the same experience. Their parents or maybe grandparents were refugees from the volcano eruption, and they tell it, I mean, totally unprompted. They're like, oh, you're making a movie. Oh, this is what the movie should be about. And they start saying in first person, so as if they had lived it. They start telling the experience of before we lived up in the mountains, or we lived, by the volcano, there were animals, and it's just this beautifully recounted story in the first person from a child's perspective. That I think only could have happened because of Saúl's both intimacy and tenderness with their experience. I'm sure we could get Saúl to talk more about the like bringing the cosmovision, Zoque cosmovision, into our films if there's time.
Saúl, yeah, a little time, yeah.
Saúl, no sé si quieres platicar un poco de cómo aceptado trabajar conmigo y sobre todo el reto o el hecho de hacer películas que incluyen un poco la cosmovisión y experiencia zoque.
Ok, voy a como tratar de responder junto con la otra pregunta. Pues yo quiero comentarles que yo no soy de formación como cineasta, ¿no? Ese es, yo me formé como pintor, digamos, o sea, me gusta la pintura y a partir de ahí es que la pintura como un medio de acercamiento al pueblo o a los pueblos. Y cuando había una necesidad de hablar también de la forma de cómo nosotros vemos y entendemos la realidad que, 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 que vivimos, la situación, tanto la riqueza cultural que hay en mi pueblo y también las situaciones difíciles que enfrenta mi pueblo. Yo tenía esta necesidad de alguna forma de escribir esta historia, ¿no? Esta memoria que para el caso de nosotros los soques, eh, cultura milenaria, no, no, durante mucho tiempo no se escribió la historia de mi pueblo. Quizás fue por esta intención de querer acabar con los pueblos indígenas, de acabar con las culturas y tristemente pues no hay un escrito que documente más nuestro pasado, ¿no? Hay un vacío, como si no hubiera pasado nada, como si no existimos, ¿no? Entonces yo sentía esta necesidad de escribir esta historia, ¿no? De escribir esto que estamos viviendo en nuestras comunidades, porque estábamos muy lejos de poder comunicarnos en los medios que hay en el estado me refiero al estado de Chiapas o, o en el país, ¿no? En los medios de comunicación, muy, muy difícil, ¿no? Entonces, yo durante un tiempo, yo quería siempre a contar o mostrar la historia de mi pueblo a través del cine. Entendía yo que el cine era un medio o es un medio en el cual podemos mostrar estas realidades que nosotros vivimos. Realidades y también, digamos que desde la cosmovisión soque, que quizás no puede ser tan real, que es un poco más, no sé cómo decirlo en otras palabras, como de sueño, digamos, de sueño, que no se puede contar de una forma lineal, ¿no? Entonces yo conocí a Charles cuando estaba yo terminando la universidad en Tuxtla y antes de eso yo tocaba puertas en distintas instituciones del Estado, instituciones culturales, indigenistas del Estado, pero desafortunadamente no tuve ese acceso, ¿no? Entonces, afortunadamente, Charles estaba dando un taller de cine ahí en la universidad y pues yo le llegué con una idea de hacer de mostrar como en cine, ahora sí que en cine, esta historia de mi pueblo, ¿no? Es que describir esta memoria de mi pueblo. Y fue ahí cuando, con la sorpresa de que Charles dijo que sí, eh, ya casi había agotado toda pues las esperanzas, ¿no? Como pasa mucho acá en Chiapas, ¿no? Entonces, Charles me permitió, o nos permitimos ambos trabajar este proyecto cinematográfico que luego fue tomando forma hasta que llegó la Selva Negra y después esta reciente película que es Ecos del Volcán. Eh, digamos que ha sido un proceso complejo de poder hacer cine, no es tan sencillo como parece para nuestro caso, para nuestra, quizás, bueno, para el caso de nuestros pueblos, de nuestras comunidades, porque a veces no tenemos esa posibilidad de tener una cámara, ¿no? No tenemos esos accesos, ni siquiera de poder estudiar cine, ¿no? Esto, digamos que es como de sueño, ¿no? O sea, es como muy, muy difícil de que alguien pueda tener un acceso de estudio en cine. Son, bueno, para el caso de México, yo no sé, otros países, otros lugares como es, ¿no? Pero para nuestra realidad ha sido así, ¿no? Entonces, digamos que Charles me permitió tener como esta oportunidad y, de poder crear. Para mí el hecho de hacer práctica en la pintura también es de atrevimiento, es de arriesgarse, de manifestar desde el corazón lo que uno siente, lo que uno piensa. Y yo creo que también fue así para nosotros el cine con Charles, de arriesgarnos a cómo mostrar estas historias o cómo escribir este, este, estos documentales que, como bien ya mencionó Charles, son La Selva Negra y Ecos, tienen como formas distintas de narrarse, pero esto, digamos que para mi caso, para mi experiencia, la pintura es como de no tener miedo, de aventurarse, a ver qué va a pasar, ¿no? Nunca está como definido algo, ¿no? Entonces, y yo creo que jugamos un poco con esta experiencia. No solo hicimos, paralelamente hacíamos otros proyectos y jugábamos también con otras formas, ¿no? Entonces, yo creo que o sea, nos comprendimos ambos de cómo vamos a hacer esta historia y pues para nosotros, bueno, yo creo que para el caso de ambos documentales nos sentimos bien, nos sentimos cómodos de alguna manera, con sus riesgos, obviamente, con sus riesgos, pero también con las sorpresas, ¿no? O sea, las sorpresas a la hora de filmar, ¿no? Siempre listos, siempre eh, dispuestos a lo que se viniera y yo creo que esto es lo que permite también el documental, ¿no? Esa es como la fortuna de que no sabemos qué va a pasar, ¿no? O sea, no sabemos, pero de pronto había como estas sorpresas y ese es el resultado, digamos, de nuestro trabajo. Si me dan la palabra, a veces no tengo como ese control de poder hablar, entonces voy a limitarme ahí y si hay todavía tiempo, pues seguiré hablando y les agradezco mucho.
Muy, muy bien de, um, de la suerte, ¿no? De lo que puede suceder que no sabemos.
Uh-huh. Estaban en el lugar correcto, al tiempo correcto. Qué bueno. No, pues we're at the hour mark, and I think there's going to be another Q&A soon. So I think this is where we have to end. But thank you so much for sharing your films with us and with our audience. Before you leave, though, I want to ask a quick question. Please mention a documentary that you feel our audience members need to watch. Someone that a documentary is important. If it's a Latinx filmmaker, it's extra points. Who wants to take it first? It can't be your own. It can't be your own documentary. You have to say someone else.
I guess I'll recommend the film. It's not by a Latinx filmmaker. I'm sorry, but I just watched it yesterday. Gianfranco Rossi Notturno, which is on movie, and it's a fantastic documentary about the Middle Eastern conflict in like a very human way, very intimate way. That's my recommendation.
Thank you. Who else? Who wants to go next? Veronica left to not answer. I was like, oh, you're here. I was like, just joking.
I have people walking through the back.
I was like, oh man, she left us. Like, do you have any? No.
I'm trying to remember the name of one. It was a long time ago I watched it. I was looking it up though. If if any of you want to answer until I find it.
I can recommend The Infiltrators, which maybe many people have seen, by Alex Rivera and Christina Ibarra. But it really follows the Dream Nine and people who went to detention centers in order to try to get people out. So yeah, it's an incredible film, and also was a big inspiration for Ale Libre as well. And I also thought it was really creative because they ended up using they ended up shooting some of the reenactments of when all of the organizers did go inside, because they didn't have that footage, obviously. So I thought that was really cool that they did a hybrid.
Thank you. We were supposed to play that last year, and then our festival got canceled. Then Corona happened.
Oh, okay. It's a really good film. Hopefully they can screen it another way.
Yeah, no, I think we have a cinema here in San Diego, and we played it in a virtual cinema. But it was supposed to be part of the festival experience. Charles or Saúl, un documental que recomienden al público.
En general, no tiene que ser del festival, ¿verdad?
No, no. Algo que sientan que es importante. O un documental importante.
Sí, yo creo que para el caso de nosotros y para que conozcan más la cultura de mi pueblo, es un documental que se llama Piohuachúhue, es de Juan Francisco Rusti, un mexicano que documentó la erupción del volcán antes documentó mi comunidad antes de la erupción del volcán Chichonal en 1982. Entonces hay imágenes de cómo se ve la comunidad donde eran mis papás, y gracias creo que a ese documental es que también tengo como ese gusto por el cine, ¿no? Yo creo que hay alguien que hizo un trabajo previo, y ese documental a mí en lo especial me encanta, me fascina, porque ahí está parte de mi memoria, de mis antepasados, de mis papás, de mis tíos, que aparecen en ese documental. Y pues yo los invito a ver ese documental para que conozcan un poco más mi cultura, más mi comunidad, y pues ojalá puedan verlo.
Mañana vamos a tener su nuevo documental de Juan Francisco. Por si lo quieren ver.
Para recomendar un documental, creo que mejor voy a optar por recomendar uno de Puerto Rico. Recommend one from Puerto Rico so you can guys know the part of our culture. Y creo que entre los últimos documentales que vi local, es Filiberto, que es muy bueno. Que no sé si han escuchado sobre él, creo que ganó premio en un festival Creo que ganó premio en un festival en Cuba, si no me equivoco.
Mhm.
Pero muy bueno, es sobre un independentista aquí de Puerto Rico, así que it's really good.
¿Cómo se llamaba otra vez?
Filiberto, I'll write it
Filiberto.
in the.
Gracias. Gracias. How about you, Charles?
Um, you know, well, there's so many, but one, the Oscar lists just came out, and I'm pleasantly surprised by the Oscar documentary nominees this year, and I actually I could be happy with any of them, but I really like Time. I have to say, I really appreciated the film Time, and the I loved one of my favorite Mexican films from recent years is called La Camarista, and I think it was a first film and a very accomplished, beautiful, intimate film, and also not a documentary. I'm a huge fan of Zama. So
That's a really good one.
And then for one, I guess I'll mention one more. I'm on a roll. As something like for cinephiles, something that's totally different, but that influenced, I think, our approach to sound recording and soundscapes for our film are the films of Jacques Tati, and especially Playtime, among others. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. The audience, you all have homework now. If you haven't seen any of these, thank you for sharing your films with us. And we hope to have you back with your next short or your next feature. We love to highlight you once more. I think you all are very talented. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you. This was great. This was great fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Gracias.
Yes.
Gracias.